CardinalVirtues has uploaded a response to a website I posted dedicated to him, Theo Warner, Big Lundy, and their subscribers. Why did I post this website? Thanks to Theo Warner. He began harassing and stalking me in my email and with PMs in a childish attempt to force and extort me into taking down every video I have made in response to him. I got tired of the so I told him I'd be making a website dedicated to him. My website isn't coming to you. It's retaliations for your stalking. After I politely asked you to stop sending to my email, your response was extortion. You won't stop until I remove all my videos to you. Keep it up. More fodder for my next video about you. Also, due to Theo Warner's harassing and stalking of me, I made a video, Theo Warner, Big Lundy, CardinalVirtues, and their gang, the whole story, in which I detailed the whole thing between us. CardinalVirtues posted his video.
Quote, "Hey Billzybobb, remember in that video you uploaded earlier today when you told Big Lundy that he shouldn't be so cavalier with his personal information? I'm going to have to make that same recommendation to you when it comes to the domain names that you register for the websites you decide to open. You might want to remember this word of advice the next time you try to make a website dedicated to screwing with other people." End quote.
In a comments exchange with Big Lundy, he posted his home address after I told him I'd send him mine, after he and CardinalVirtues called for my death so that he could come try his luck to carry that death out. Being the nice guy that I am, I recommended Big Lundy not post his info like that. You don't know what kind of people are out there. You could run into someone like you, Big Lundy, and CardinalVirtues. Since I signed up for the web space, my home address was entered into this WHOIS database, and they all went scurrying to find my information. In response to my website, Theo Warner wrote this on CardinalVirtues' page and replied to someone that asked him if they could legally force me to take down the site. No, that said, there are some laws that surround this sort of behavior, and as soon as he crosses even one, I will pounce. And that's how we got Dr. Craig videos. And of course, since we now know where he lives, we can look at local laws too. Pretty easy once you've doc dropped yourself. Well, now you've got it. My info, that is. What you gonna do with it? Sort of behavior? That actually coming from Theo Warner. To Theo Warner's little ditty there, I just had to say, man, you people have some devious minds in you. I'm not surprised though. Breaking laws isn't my forte. As for where I live, it's no big secret. Come on down, I use my personal info everywhere. We can have brunch. Do you want me to take down the site like all my videos? Not gonna happen. Unless, of course, you flag them all. That's in your veins, right? I don't break the law, by the way. Is discovering where I live through my site? Theo Warner responded, so we can have brunch but not a Skype call. Okay. No, we can't. It was just sarcasm. As you stated that if someone owes you money, and you tell that person that owes you money that they owe you money, that what you are really telling them is that anyone that borrows money should be ashamed of themselves. See Theo Warner's video, Why I Am Not an Atheist, for that. I want it fully clear to you that brunch is off the shelf. So CardinalVirtues pronounces to his subscribers that they can go to this WHOIS database to find out for themselves where I am. I also said in my video I was going to report Theo Warner to YouTube, and since Theo brought all these people in, that of course would be bad for them as well. Rest easy. Telling Theo that was a ploy to get his stalking ass out of my email. I don't want you gone. You are the definition of what my argument combats. You are the very thing I am out to expunge. You are the living, breathing, and actuality of my foe. Your kind must be eradicated. You are museum pieces to my argument. You may believe your attempts to silence me discourages me. You seem to believe you have what it takes to put an end to my crusade. Do you believe your crusade to put an end to my channel will be successful? Do you believe calling your subscribers and friends to come to my channel and vote down my videos, attack me in my comments, and make videos in opposition to me, lying about me, threatening me is your road? As I told you, you fucked with the wrong brother. I don't know who you believe you've run into, but I'll tell you who you have run into. Marcus Garvey, Martin Luther King Jr., John Brown, Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, Nelson Mandela, Nat Turner. If you think your attacks have any effect upon me, you are sadly misinformed. You believe you are in a struggle to win brownie points with your subscribers, to find that popularity you so desperately crave. No, you are in a struggle for the sanctity of humanity's dignity itself, the cleaning of a slate, the beginning of a new existence for the human species, universal decency. That is what your lot has run into. And people ask for my info. Free thinker on ice. Can anyone send me the actual WHOIS info before he anonymized it? And told me they have it. John Warner. I just got all his info with WHOIS inquiry on my computer. Oops. I'd like to think they crave it for posterity. After all, I did prove gods do not exist, and that existence as we know it does. But knowing them, it is to post it. I've been informed that people do that kind of stuff. Well, if my homestead is egged in the near future, we know where to investigate. CardinalVirtues continue with,
quote, so a final tip for your next effort. If you try to falsify your domain name registration, you can actually have your domain name rescinded, end quote. As stated before, CardinalVirtues informed me he wants me dead. He then told me he honestly hopes someone murders me, as he is simply too cowardly to come carry out his own wish. He now uses this rescinded domain name ploy to fear me into removing my site and videos from YouTube that reveal him the disgusting animal he is, as he is warning me he will give my information out so that others can come and end me on his flaccid, cowardly behalf.
I, being me, just love these boys and girls. I honestly can't get enough of them. They love calling me stupid, so I love giving them the chance to prove it. So I went to CardinalVirtues' video to pass fun times in the comments.
Quote, the next time you make a website dedicated to screwing with other people, end quote.
Now that bit of hysterical hypocrisy is classic CardinalVirtues. See my video, The Sickness of Theo Warner, Big Lundy, CardinalVirtues, and their sycophants. For that story, I could only reply, me screwing with people? You don't like your own medicine? I don't recall making a website about you. I do seem to recall having left you alone for the past 3 months. Hell, I haven't even made a video about you in 6. Think that lets you off the hook, Sonny? Hook for what? You said you made this website because Theo was stalking you. I'm not Theo. I haven't said a word to you in months. It's not my fault you're a loser, a retard, and a bigot. I would advise you to remember that bigot comment. That's the reason I made it. But you're included simply for being a sympathizer to racist bigots and losers, making you one, and for your douchebaggery. Which racist, bigots, and losers am I sympathizing with? And having sympathy for something makes you part of it? Guilt by association, Bisley. How very Old Testament of you. Having sympathy for a religion that advocates stoning a woman to death for being raped does make you a part of it. Unless, of course, you'd stop the pack of Christian dogs doing the stoning. Then, of course, I couldn't call you a sympathizer. Is that the case? I'd do my best to intervene in preventing anyone from being stoned to death, Billzy. The religion or irreligion of all parties involved would be immaterial to me. Is that such a hard thing for your small brain to comprehend? So then you believe societies for religious reasons that stone women to death are wrong. You would prevent them from carrying out their religious beliefs. You are a bigot. LOL, what? He's laughing at me. Yeah. A bigot getting pissy? Are you a bigot or not a bigot? Would you stop a bunch of jihadists from blowing up a preschool or not? I've answered both your questions already, Billzy. Stop wasting my time and go watch my videos before you address me again, peasant. So that means he would attempt to stop them. So you're a bigot. That means you're a hypocrite. That means you're a liar. That explains everything about you. If you are not a bigot as you claim, then you would not stop them from carrying out their religious practices, because you would believe their practices of stoning rape women to death is legitimate. That would make you a sympathizer to their practices. Yet you state you are not a sympathizer because you would attempt to put a stop to her stoning. That equates to believing their religious practices abhorrent, disgusting, wrong. So if you, like me, believe their religious beliefs are inhuman garbage, and, like me, you would set out to stop them, as you've stated you would, and that action makes me, by your logic, a bigot, I'm at a loss as to what that would make you. Perhaps you could please explain. I get it now. It seems you do not believe their practices are inhuman garbage, but still need to be stopped. And maybe you're saying you're someone that would only attempt to stop it if you see it. So you'd make a law respecting the practice of stoning rape women to death as long as it was carried out in the privacy of someone's home. Perhaps somewhere in your brain you believe their practices are inhuman garbage, but it's alright for them to practice them because you sympathize with the beliefs of all, but you would simultaneously attempt to stop them while telling them you do not believe their beliefs are garbage, but they need to be stopped anyway because you, what? I told CardinalVirtues this in reply to one of his comments. As you've conceded your videos had nothing to do with anything I've ever said, I will leave you alone in these comments, as he, Big Lundy, their subscribers, and Theo Warner, for a very lengthy period, have had no clue what my argument is. Not a single video CardinalVirtues or anyone else in their camp for that matter has ever made addressed it. I will leave you alone in these comments. CardinalVirtues took that to mean I would stop commenting on the page. or leave him alone. No, I conceded no such thing. My videos went point by point through everything you said and every argument you made. Do you understand how conversation works? You don't just invent shit in your head and then believe the other person said it, kid. Now kindly fuck off like you promised. That statement, of course, brings us full circle to the cause of your present problems, CardinalVirtues. Theo Warner. According to your boy, Theo Warner. What I really said is that I would stick around. Unless you're going to call Theo a liar, bigot. See Theo Warner's video, Why I Am Not an Atheist, for the explanation to that comment. I don't care what Theo says. Do you even read shit before you hit reply, jackass? Go away, you're boring. Ooh, don't care what Theo say, huh? It all makes sense now. You only care what is said about your precious, your Theo. Theo has demonstrated he will misdirect, corrupt, abuse, lie to his content. And because it is your stock in trade, CardinalVirtues, and the rest of you band of internet mafia, your kin, your tribe, as you have demonstrated, I understand why you wouldn't give a rat's ass what spews from you folks' mouths or the actions you undertake. My context interjected. Emotional shit all around. I would like to play arbiter on a chat to end the war, if that would be acceptable to all parties. No, fuck off, says CardinalVirtues. I don't want anything to do with you or him. Ooh, heat must be getting to the internet tough guy. You were full of wanting everything to do with me the day before that comment you just wrote. Did I actually do something to you, or are you just pissed and acting pissy? Theo Warner is a liar. Big Lundy is simply a liar. I didn't know into which camp to place you, CardinalVirtues. The fact that there shouldn't be a multitude of interpretation is not a point that most have ever really considered, at least so it seems. This has never been the argument he has made towards me or anyone else. Lying troll. If multiple interpretations did not exist, my argument would not exist. If thousands of denominations of Christianity did not exist, and there were only one, that would be evidence for the existence of their God, and you would never have heard of me. Multiple interpretations are the cornerstone of my argument. They are the only reason it exists. All you have done is to admit you are not but a liar, and have never responded to my argument, and have simply been speaking out your ass end in every video you've ever made to me. The fact that there shouldn't be a multitude of interpretation is not a point that most have ever really considered, at least so it seems. This is also why I want nothing to do with you. You throw your lot in with this bigoted fuckwit. Have at it. It's your life. Is that why you ignore it and want it to go away? Because you've never considered it? Well, that's what separates some people from most people. You people, CardinalVirtues. As you are wont to point out on every occasion you can, that between us you are the smart one, the educated one, the one with the philosophical background, the thinker. Why did it never occur to you to question that contradiction? Is that why you despise me so? I've proven gods do not exist. That reality as we know it does. You, with all your accomplished studies, have accomplished what? You've never even put those studies to practice to accomplish something. All that study you've done has simply brought you to the conclusion that for you, it was all a waste of studying. You had the tools. What did I have? Save my stupidity, as you've put it. I now understand your anger toward me. Your hatred. It's called projection. You are ashamed of yourself, disgusted with yourself. I brought you out of your stupor into the realization that after all those years of study and YouTube videos, that all you have managed to become is an accomplished fill in the blank. That being the case, I told him, that's the only argument I've made, fucktard. His own feeble reply was, yeah, Theo is a Nazi and hates Jews and is a pedo. There shouldn't be multiple interpretation if this is all true in Billzybobb land. Get lost, reject. I want to answer this for Cardinal Corrupt here, but when I did, guess what? He blocked me. No worries. History has not taught him, but I will now. That truth is inexorable. You as a Nazi and hates Jews and as a pedo is not an argument. Is what you would call an opinion, CardinalVirtues.
An opinion I have never voiced nor thought, liar.
I have no clue if the Christian texts teach the hatred of Jews, boy. The words Christians hate Jews have never left my lips, liar. In your comment, you have simply admitted you have no clue what my argument is and that your videos had nothing to do with it. And therefore I had no reason to watch them. But my context is far better at explaining my argument to you highly educated philosophy folk than I am. So I'll let him take it from here.
And I use that word rather loosely. Expected to have a meaning. when it's faced with the reality that there are many possible meanings that can be substituted in,
Yeah.
and no one is objecting, it seems, other than a pejorative meaning, then the meaning becomes really questionable.
When I think about this religious diversity, as much as I find it annoying, it seems to me that disagreement is about something.
Yeah, in the case of Christian, I'll go with you and say God and Jesus in some fashion.
Yeah, so this is where I find Billzybobb's comment to really be utterly bizarre. If you and I can sit here and say, obviously, Christianity refers to some sort of God, some sort of Jesus, some sort of creator, I will clarify what Theo Warner is referring to here. I created an argument called the argument from a disconnect to reality, or Yahweh Allah doesn't exist, in which I state that the existence of a denomination claiming hell exists and one claiming hell does not cannot both be making a true claim. One of them is wrong, and that this dictates that Christianity does not exist. If a person tells you that apples exist and another tells you that they do not, then you know one of these individuals is insane. Apples can be demonstrated to exist because they exist. Hell cannot be demonstrated to exist because it does not. If it did, it could be as readily proven to exist as apples. If you read the Bible to discover what Christianity is, and you come away from it with hell both exists and does not, there is no substance to what you are attempting to grasp. You are engaged in rummaging through a vacuum. There is nothing there. Christianity does not exist. Theo Warner was incapable of grasping my argument that Christianity doesn't exist, and went on to exclaim it does exist by explaining that there is a book called the Bible that contains Christianity, and therefore Christianity exists. Yeah, so this is where I find Billzybobb's comment to really be utterly bizarre. If you and I can sit here and say, obviously, Christianity refers to some sort of God, some sort of Jesus, some sort of creator.
The ugly aspect comes from, and I grant this is purely an interpretive point, and the issue is that there is nothing that, quote, refutes the interpretive point except for group notions.
This means that after I informed Theo Warner that you cannot interpret the existence of hell because it exists or does not despite individual wishes of denominations, that he must end his protestation, that the fact that denominations have opposing views does not mean that they are not practicing the same religion. To demonstrate this, he stated that a Christian that states his God is a triune God, and a Christian that states the same God is not a triune God, are still worshiping the same God, that the God is both triune and not triune. This, of course, dictates that all interpretations/denominations are equally valid, equally true, that hell both exists and does not, that apples both exist and do not.
Because it's all group notion at this point. Let's take the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And I don't find many disagreements among any atheists regarding God as being depicted as effectively a monster. Is there any disagreement on that for the most part?
Yes, but let's skip it.
Given that, I'm going to say that there are interpretations where the God is a monster. There are interpretations that reflect this.
Yeah. Maybe not from your standpoint,
but some depictions are better than other depictions.
Exactly. Some depictions are better than others. If you can hold on to that idea, then it becomes very problematic to say that all interpretations are equally valid. As stated, my argument states that if it is to be accepted that hell both exists and does not, and that Theo Warner's God is both triune and not triune, then both interpretations are equally valid, both equally true. This cannot be the case. Therefore, both propositions cannot be accepted. Theo Warner's response to this was that one of the interpretations could be bad and one good, demonstrating they are not equally valid. Unfortunately, he is incapable of grasping the fact that good and bad do not address validity, true or false. A true thing can be bad or good. His useless argument does not address if it is true. So we have to go all the way back again and remind ourselves that what we were saying was that the word Christian is ultimately meaningless insofar as it's used as a tribal identity. We're now saying people use the word Christian with intent for there to be meaning to the word. We've moved the conversation into the realm of where words have meaning. The word Christian clearly refers to a group of beliefs, and while these beliefs are furiously contended, it's very easy to say the word Christian refers to a collection of beliefs. Then we began talking about interpretation. We've agreed theory that all interpretations are equally valid is not supported. It is inconsistent with the idea that, of course, there are better interpretations.
But there is one more point with regard to his argument. There's one more point that goes with that.
Okay.
And the other point is, if there is a presumption of an actual standard, then all these varied interpretations are not acceptable.
Now, I'm not sure that that's different than saying I think I'm right.
If you're going to claim an authority sets a standard, and we're going to go for this notion of absolutism that's implied in this notion.
Yes.
And that,
but
just follow me for a second. When a Christian claims that there is a absolute moral value, and they're going with the idea that there is a absolute lawgiver, and they're specifying God to be this absolute lawgiver as to how things should be, that also suggests that there is no variation from what's being presented.
There's no variation?
No variation to be accepted beyond whatever is the depiction that's being claimed.
I think you may have just done this thing that I tried to talk about in this one video where you've accidentally endorsed a position you didn't mean to endorse. I will explain what Theo Warner means by that. Theo Warner has just recognized what my context is telling him. He is telling Theo Warner that all Christians would have a common understanding of the existence of hell if his God existed. That all Christians would know if his God is triune or not. There would be no confusion in Christianity. All Christians would possess the exact same knowledge of Christianity. There would exist no denominations. Every Christian would have the exact same understanding of the sentence, "If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain." All Christians would know what that means, and there would be no disagreement. He has recognized that that is what my context is telling him, and he is informing my context that that is what he is unwittingly endorsing. He is telling my context that that is an argument he doesn't wish to endorse, because he has recognized it as my argument. The argument I gave Theo Warner in a Skype debate Theo Warner challenged me to. The result of my explaining this to Theo Warner was that he laughed at me and called me silly, dumb, and stupid. He then challenged my context to a Skype debate because my context made the statement that my argument was valid. Theo Warner's aim was to enlighten my context as to the stupidity of my argument. Theo Warner was under the impression that he would be explaining my argument to my context. Theo Warner believed he would be explaining the argument of divine hiddenness to my context. For this is the argument Theo Warner stated I didn't know I was peddling. He has now come to the realization that the argument from divine hiddenness has nothing to do with mine. He has now come to the realization that I, in fact, am not the silly, stupid, dumb one. And he prays beyond hope that his "you've endorsed Billzybobb's position and you don't want to do that" will straighten my context out.
Let me see if have I done that or not. Let me see if I can finish it so we can see. My commentary is that if you're claiming that there is an absolute something and it has an absolute specification, then the fact that there are variations of what would theoretically fall under the specifications says that that can't be so. That's what he was getting at.
And what I would say is, I don't see why that's the case, because this is an attribute of God question.
Actually, this is not attribute of God. This is a statement of dictate of God.
Okay, so we have to talk about this in concrete terms. Like what? Give me an example.
And you shall not work on the Sunday.
You shall observe the Sabbath. Your argument seems to be, and I know when I say this, you'll say that can't possibly be what I'm saying.
Go for it.
Let me just say what I retain from what you said is that if God said that nobody could disagree about what God means. So if God said you shall observe the Sabbath, that we would all sit around and know exactly what he meant by it.
Exactly.
I have to say I can't understand how you could possibly say that, because I can think of about 20 different meanings of the word observe.
But if we're presuming that there is such an entity that is all-powerful, all-knowing, then there should be no disagreement about what he means.
Why?
Because it would have it within its power to address our state of affairs, such that we would at least understand.
So, I have to say I just don't follow that. It seems like you've invented a meaning of the word all-powerful.
There's an expectation with the idea that is not met. But obviously, there is no agreement, and obviously, and it's not obvious, but there is an expectation. It's not obvious, but there is an expectation that if there is such an omnipotent entity, that there are many things that should not be that are.
But let's not talk about what should be and isn't. What should be, you said, is that the usage of the word observe would result in only one interpretation in all minds.
Yes.
Why would something all-powerful use the word observe in a way that can only be interpreted in one way?
My point is, the idea depicted says that you have an entity that has a certain set of expectations, desires. It's presumed that it has the power to meet these desires based upon the statement of the claim.
It has the power to meet these desires. You mean that whatever it is that it wants, it will affect in language.
Correct. In this case, it would be about understanding. So however it would be the case that we would come to understand the dictates, because it should be a singular set of dictates if it were pronouncing it, given that it has all of this ability and knowledge. The state of affairs is a contradiction to that claim. That's the totality of the argument. If there is a God as depicted, and we're going with all these characteristics of omniscient, all-powerful, etc., then the state of affairs is the state of how things actually are, is a contradiction to that statement.
Wait, don't forget that. Alright, rephrase that. Because you've got to remember that we're talking about and wrote the Bible have got to be in there. Because we're talking about interpreting the word observe.
Whether it be observe or any other particular word that you care to put on it, whatever it deemed appropriate, assuming it actually exists, should be understood in common.
Why?
Because it has presumably, and this is again an assumption given based upon the claim, that it would have the power to deliver upon this universal understanding of what it wants.
Yeah, and so what? I have to say that you're simultaneously criticizing the thing you are assuming. You're assuming that its goal is for us to all observe the Sabbath when the words observe the Sabbath occur. And then you're saying, well, how can we disagree because the God wants us to observe the Sabbath? But that doesn't make any sense so far as we only have the one data point to refer to, which is the word observe the Sabbath.
Let me uncompact this a little bit. If there is indeed an entity that is all-powerful, that wants anything, is it at least a minimum expectation that it would be able to present what it wants? Is that a basic expectation that should be had from your standpoint?
Well, I'm already anticipating an objection, so I'm gonna have to say that, again, this is the problem as far as I can tell with the argument, is that if you limit your attributes to God to those that you've just named, what you'll result in is a God that does not exist. That is not a problem with the argument.
See yet, Cardinal Corrupt? No. That all means multiple interpretations are not allowed. It isn't up to me, my context, Thea Warner, you, or anyone else. It's simply the fact of the matter.
And now that we know interpretation is not allowed in Christianity, we now know Christianity is to be taken literally. When I made this statement, you, Thea Warner, Big Lundy, and others told me to stop calling Thea Warner and all of the Christians biblical literalists. You informed me that not all Christians take the Bible literally. You all went on to accuse me of being the biblical literalist because I stated that there can only be one interpretation of the existence of hell. It exists or doesn't.
It's simply the fact of the matter. Facts don't interest you and your supporters, though. In my video, Destroying Trolls equals Big Lundy and CardinalVirtues, and in other videos, because I just have to keep repeating myself for you folk, I explained to you that the word Christian is just that. A word, a concept, a title, not a human being. And that to debate a believer, you must destroy their ability to make stuff up, invent definitions of Christian and Christianity. I told you that in order to do that, if a person tells you Christianity is peace and love, pull out their holy book and show them where their God orders its favorite race to slaughter babies, because it said so. And then to tell that person That is Christianity. And if they dispute it, then you have just destroyed the ability to make stuff up. It means multiple interpretations are not allowed in Christianity. I told you all of that and more. When will it sink in? That Christian is a word that is defined by Christianity, not a dictionary. Christianity is a philosophy. A Christian, as defined by that philosophy, is a thing that adheres to the doctrines of that philosophy. And that philosophy teaches that that title, Christian, must obey anything that that philosophy's creator, a God, deems appropriate. If a person tells you they have murdered a baby, and another tells you they haven't, but would murder a baby if told to, then, as you know full well I have stated, the psychology of both persons is indistinguishable. Because at the words of their own God or patron there is no depth, either person would not stoop. They are in this case psychologically the same thing because both would perform the same act. Yet you blocked me before I could reveal the truth to your compatriots. I am now in my full right to call you a liar. Someone bent on dishonesty, corruption of my words, and control over the minds of others through base deception. Although in your world, describing the title Christian as a thing that is a child murderer is bad, your boy Theo Warner agrees with me. He told me that his God is too above him to understand. It's epistemology, that is. And that means he has no problem with anything his God's text contain, and so he will do whatever it tells him. I was only following orders was the Nazi defense at their crimes against humanity trials. And as Troll once stated in the defense of his God, a perfectly rational defense. It is the Christian mantra. Ask Isaac's Abraham, Jephthah too. If your God forgives you for anything you do simply for accepting Jesus, then child murder is not a crime. Crime does not exist. Ask any Roman Catholic priest. That means they will all tell you crime does not exist because their God has decreed it, or they are lying to you. You, CV, as in the case of Theo Warner, may wish to state you are not lying. That perhaps after repeatedly stating that you understand my argument and that I am just a numbskull, or as Big Lundy put it, I just can't let go of my pet theory, can now tell us if you actually understood it, or if you are lying. We know you've seen all my videos in which you say I called Theo a Nazi and a pedo because you said it, and because your comments are all over them. So you either fall into the camp of not understanding, or into that of Theo Warner, a liar, which would affirm for your subscribers that I am not a numbskull. But before you head for not understanding, recall this. The fact that there shouldn't be a multitude of interpretation is not a point that most have ever really considered, at least so it seems. If you're not lying, where did that come from in reference to me? My context fully aware of everything I've just said to you. CV again attempts to squash this whole thing despite your nature cardinal virtues. The fact that there shouldn't be a multitude of interpretation is not a point that most have ever really considered, at least so it seems. So this is a point that needs to be present clearly with that necessary detail such that they can see the point of why it is absurd that people are making up whatever interpretation. Make the videos, address the points, cardinal virtues, Theo Warner. Since everyone is a prisoner to what they think it true and all their actions are constrained and directed by such notions. I've seen you try to interject yourself in this before. You're not an honest interlocutor. Go fuck yourself, Pro. My context is interjecting himself. Where the f*** did you come from? I never heard of your ass until you interjected your mind into my debate with Theo Warner. Where the f*** do you come off? What zoo did you escape from? I will now consider you an ass. That was my context. When you look into the abyss that is Theo Warner, Big Lundy, Cardinal Virtues, and their subscribers, it is impossible to remain completely humane. Let's summarize now. Cardinal Virtues wants people to mind their own business in his small petty way, has wished pain, suffering, and death on me through disease, has called for my murder. Cardinal Corrupt is a true fanatic, a real-life Christian, faithful Jew, Muslim, and when the likes of me attempts to put an end to his alike, you are witness to what they are and are capable of. As for you, his subscribers, you now see that Cardinal Virtues and Theo Warner are only interested in controlling you.